Good morning. Always nice to see you join us for 3+U as we begin yet another week here on the show. Hope your day is off to a good start. We're kind of having some fun laughter on the show as we begin things for you this morning. Dr. Tirffany Ahlberg kicks it off with us. She is here with two of her new friends and their audiology residents, traveling in from Michigan. Is that right? That's Dana Natero on the end. Next to her is Grace Young, and you are from Idaho. And you, of course, are from right here in Cleveland.
That's right.
And you've already given me an education to begin my week. I did not realize that becoming an audiologist was such a lengthy timeline. 8 years, is that right?
8 years, yes. It's 4 years of undergrad and then 4 years of graduate school.
So what's happened in this case, and I promise I'm going to let the two of you talk, but they have come to you and they're part of your practice for a year to finish up their clinical hours. Is that right?
Yes. So in the 4 years of college, the graduate school, you have to have so many clinical hours. So actually hands-on experience, seeing patients, and just gaining that clinical experience. And so that's what they do that throughout their 4 years of school. So they're constantly in other practices, they're doing rotations, they're in and out of other people's offices. And then the fourth year comes and they're in one place for a whole year.
So I would think it's kind of a reciprocal relationship where y'all, Dana, want to make sure that you are in a place that's going to teach you a lot, right?
Yeah.
That you're going to learn a lot, but then in return, she's getting a great response back from you. But have you been surprised at what you found in her practice?
Yeah, so normally private practices, you don't necessarily think that you can get as much experience because a lot of the times they stick with diagnostics and treatment of hearing loss. But as far as Ahlberg Audiology, they do so much more, like lyric and cochlear implants that you don't necessarily get a lot of hands-on with in private practices. So they definitely have a very well-rounded experience just at the practice itself.
In your case, coming here was somewhat logical because your husband's from Chattanooga, is that right?
Yep.
But you're in school still, I mean technically, in Michigan, is that right? You, on the other hand, surprised me a little bit, Grace, because you come all the way from Idaho.
Yes, I did. And my family actually lives in Athens.
Okay.
So that was the connection, yeah.
So it made sense. So is this something that you typically do, Tirffany, having residents like this?
Yes, I've had students for almost every year that I've been in practice.
So I mean, it makes so much sense. I mean, all types of the medical field, you have to go through those clinical hours, but has it been a real education of its own for the two of you to leave the classroom and then come into the office setting like this?
I think the best thing about it is that we're just doing clinic now. So we get all this experience in clinic and we're really gaining independence, and we get some time with some specialty things like cochlear implants, like Dana was mentioning, and just some other things. So it's been great.
Does it take you back to your time doing
Well, I feel like, they obviously, I'm their supervisor, but it helps me because I love to get the experience that they give me as from being a student, and they have the more like that. They've recently been in school and recently gained this knowledge, so I just love asking them questions too. So I learn as much from them as they do from me.
So can I tell people what we were doing in the studio before you went on the air?
Sure.
I won't name names. I promise. I won't name names. I promise. But so they got here, and when guests come on the show on a regular basis, and Tirffany, of course, is here every month, we really become friends. And all of us become friends. So different people of our crew our staff began coming over to you because you had your
otoscope.
That's what you had. So you were looking in people's ears before you got on the air this morning to give them a clean bill of health.
That's right.
But it didn't take long. So what you were doing with them obviously was very quick.
Right. Yes.
Nothing like an office visit.
Right.
What is it? So what are y'all doing in the practice? Are you seeing first-time patients on your own, or what are you doing, Dana?
Right now, we're seeing some returning patients that already have been established. If they do need a hearing test, it's usually a repeat hearing test. We are going to start branching into seeing new patients, but right now we're trying to get just used to the clinic itself, how it runs, and how billing and all of that stuff works before we go off into getting new patients in.
Right. So, I mean, I think it is important to remind people of the intense level of training that you go through? Because you shared before, you don't want to discourage anybody from doing what's right for them, but we live in that world now of over-the-counter hearing devices, and there's no training there.
Yeah.
You're just kind of flying blind if you're purchasing those, right?
Yeah, definitely. You're taking that on yourself to fix and program and, you know, all of the things. I mean, if you spent a day in our practice, you would see how much care, continual care it takes to keep things working right. You have little computers in your ears that are exposed to earwax, that are exposed to sweat, that are exposed to, you know, just your everyday life. And so that affects how they work sometimes. And we maintain those for people.
Well, okay, so that's still taking me back to what you were saying about her practice, private practice, being a little bit unique from what I heard you say, with all the different things that she's able to provide. So it's not just that you have to know how the hearing device is going to work best for a respective patient, but then how to maintain it and take. You have to know the technology too. Is that right? Is that right, Grace?
Yeah. And you have to know how adjustments affect a person's hearing and what's going to be best for them. So there's a lot that goes into programming a hearing aid.
So how long have you been with her?
I've been with her since the beginning of May, but I also did my summer internship with them last year as well.
Okay, and how about you?
I've been here, I think this is my 4th week now.
Okay, so you're here now for the duration. They will be with you for a year.
Yes.
So if you are already a patient of Dr. Ahlberg's, you'll be seeing them when you come in, at least waving to them in the hallway, right?
That's right.
And if you are a new patient, they'll establish with you, but then they may also see them?
Yeah, so once they become independent, they may see new patients on their own, especially if it is something that needs to be worked in same day. So if our schedules are full, it gives people a way to get into the office sooner if they see them.
You know, we live in a time now where I think people are kind of scratching their heads sometimes on what they want to do with their lives, and careers are shifting all of the time. So for anybody who might be considering this line of work, what brought you into it?
Yeah, so I think the reason that I love audiology so much is just learning how important your hearing is to communication if you are using spoken language, and you really get to walk through a patient's hearing journey with them, and it's just a really amazing thing. I think the relationships that you build with your patients is great, and just being able to kind of open that world of communication again for people.
Same for you?
I myself have a hearing loss, and so I was on the patient side of audiology for the majority of my life, and then I had a college professor tell me, you should look into this as a career, because being a professional with hearing loss, you can really have that different kind of personal connection with the patient, because you know what the hearing aids sound like, you know what your complaints and your gripes have been, and so you can really connect with them on that level and kind of offer a personal perspective to it.
Good advice. So is it something, Tiffany, that most universities offer in their graduate programs, or is it? So
we have more audiology programs in Tennessee than most states do. We have one in Memphis, we have one at Vanderbilt, we have UT Knoxville, and we have ETSU that have graduate programs. Okay. Most of the states usually have just one or two.
Okay, well, aren't we lucky to have so many?
We are.
All right, so if you want to get in touch with Dr. Ahlberg, you will find her in Cleveland on North Ocoee Street, and when you head up there, you can know that her reputation goes all the way out to the West Coast and the Midwest, and people know about the really uniqueness of her practice. The phone number is 641-0956, ahlbergaudiology.com, and then when you are in the office, make sure you say hey to Grace and to Dana. Thank you both. Y'all have fun in Tennessee while you're here for the year.
They will.
So we have fun. It was kind of a girls' start to the show, but we tell this dad joke. I'm looking at them, but while we have a dad joke of the week that we tell every Monday on the show. So here's our corny friend Jason Wright. We love him, telling you your dad joke of the week.
Your dad joke of the week, brought to you by West Yellowknife Trading Post.
Hi there, and welcome back to this week's installment of the Dad Joke of the Week. You remember when plastic surgery was a taboo subject, but now you mention Botox and no one raises an eyebrow. You know, my wife left